Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show, sponsored by Betfred. So the international week is almost over as we speak, but what have we learned up to now? And we hear the news as well that a Premier League legend is about to leave Manchester City. Could another Premier League legend replace him? Lots to talk about with Mark Langdon and myself in the company of not just an Aston Villa legend, but legend of the nightclubs as well. Lee Hendrie.
Cheers for that, Scott.
Well, you took me to one not that long ago. Well, I say not that long ago, it was a couple of years ago now, wasn't it? How are you, mate? You okay?
I'm all good, yeah. Been really good, keeping very busy. Well, as busy as I can, really. But been quite fortunate considering the times. But yeah, ticking over, enjoying myself. Good to see some familiar faces, mate, as well.
Good. You still strategically placing products, the Mrs. products behind TV? During lockdown, Mark, we basically, we had to do everything on Zoom, and every time he was on, there was one of his Mrs. products in the background.
Well, you know what it's like. It's a way to produce
Yeah,
and
exactly.
show people what we're all about. It's a chocolate business. It works well. So get it out there.
Good timing as well now, of course. Hope she's doing well. Anyway, let's go to the week's big talking points, and it's not chocolate Easter eggs. It is, of course, Sergio Aguero in the Premier League. We'll come on to him in just a second, but let's start with the internationals. Mark, England 5, San Marino 0, Albania 0, England 2. Yet to play Poland, of course, but what have we made of England so far?
It's hard to take too much from those two games. They were expected to win them. They won them, I'd say, probably about par for both. 5 and 2-0 was about what I was expecting. I think Mason Mount probably did himself the biggest favour. There's going to be a lot of competition in that spot. Could Foden play there? Could Grealish play there? I think Southgate, Maddison even as well. But I think Southgate has always sort of been a Mason Mount believer. He was sort of him and Frank Lampard, wasn't it? Really pushed that bandwagon right from the start. And Mount just doesn't let him down and continues to impress in that position. I still think that I would go for Grealish, but I suspect that Southgate will go for Mount.
Oh, Thomas Tuchel, of course, is a big Mason Mount fan as well. I mean, Hendo, it wasn't about the results. I mean, if we didn't win, I think it'd have gone for Harry's Heroes, wouldn't he, in the Euros, and you'd have been the star man again. Who stood out for you? Was it Mason Mount? Does he have to start? Is Jack starting to get a little bit worried? Because he has been superb up until now, or before his injury anyway. Yeah,
definitely. I think the difference in contrast with the players, what you're going to get from Mason Mount is that liveliness, that busyness that he produces. I mean, he was excellent in the San Marino game. I felt particularly down that left-hand side, there was a good combination, wasn't there? And I just feel that Jack's got it all to do to come in. I'm exactly the same as you. I just feel that Jack fits the bill for that England side.
So am I, by the way, as well. I have to say, I love Mason Mount. I think he's a quality player, and it's amazing that Thomas Tuchel is a big fan of his already and the things that he said. I mean, but Gareth Southgate is saying he's becoming undroppable.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, and I think once Gareth, there was always that big hindrance over Grealish, wasn't there, coming into the England squad and why he wasn't selected at that current time. But and obviously him and Mount, it was always who's going to play. So listen, I think Jack's got something special. I really do, and I think playing on the big stage with bigger players, I think he's only going to stand out even more. Mason Mount's got that energy that listen, if you could have the two in the side, it'd work well. Possibly, yeah, possibly. I just feel that in the contrast, the way they play at this moment in time, it's coming up against the bigger sides, which we have seen, and it hasn't quite worked. But I do feel Grealish is the main man. I really do. If he can get himself back fit, listen, he's a great addition to that England squad. He really brings something different in the dynamics going forward.
Yeah, interested in goal now, isn't it, with Nick Pope? I mean, he's becoming more and more of a candidate for number one.
He is, although, I felt against Albania, the doubts that people have got about Nick Pope were there to see. Fluffed his lines a couple of times when he was trying to play out from the back. He's obviously not asked to do that for Burnley. They do get it forward a lot quicker than what Gareth Southgate would like for England. And although he kept a clean sheet, I think that would have been sort of the, maybe confirmation for what Gareth has thought about Nick Pope right from the start, that he probably is a better goalkeeper. But how that balance between being able to play out from the back. Personally, I'd just go for Henderson. I think he's got the shot stopping ability of Pope and can play out better than Pope and not that far behind Pickford. But again, Southgate I think is very loyal to the players, which is why Mount is one of his favourites, and I think Pickford is as well.
Yeah, just a quick one on the number one there. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that Pickford sort of can play the ball out. And we're saying that perhaps Pope is the better goalkeeper, but now that's not always the number one priority.
No, it's not. It's the distribution. I think it's a good point. If you're going to play in that style that England want to play, you've got to have someone who's going to have the ability to be able to play out, and you can't be affording to have mistakes, particularly in that goalkeeping area. I think Henderson's a perfect match for it. I really do. I just think Pickford's always got a mistake in his locker, but I'd certainly be going for Henderson, me.
I said at the start of the season that he can't be number one unless he's number one for Man U.
Yeah.
If he stays as number one for Man U, the biggest club with the most pressure in this country, it's going to be interesting. Mark, how did the other home nations fare? Decent for Wales.
Wales, I mean, they're absolutely flying. I mean, that was a really big and impressive result against Czech Republic. 1-0, brilliant block from Roden right at the end that preserved the win. Scotland have had a couple of draws against Israel and against Austria. I think that's a little bit behind where they would have liked to have been at this stage. We knew it was going to be difficult for Northern Ireland against Italy, didn't expect anything from there. And then just in terms of Republic of Ireland, Stephen Kenny, I do some radio work in Ireland, and Stephen Kenny is getting pelters from a lot of people. And then they didn't beat Qatar in their international friendly. If you lose at home to Luxembourg, you are going to be under pressure. I hope they can ride it out because I think they deserve a need time, but when it gets this, I suppose, negative and sort of poisonous in sort of certain aspects of the media and the support, it can be really difficult to turn that around.
Yeah, I hope he does turn it around, though. Let's talk about Sergio Aguero then. I mean, what a player. Definitely the big news of the Premier League. Manchester City's greatest ever goal scorer will be allowed to leave. Firstly, should he be allowed to leave?
I don't think so, no. I feel that he hasn't had much game time, has he, this season? I think that's been the big sort of surrounding around Sergio Aguero, is that, he's struggled with injuries. I think he'll come back fitter than ever next season, I really do. I just feel that, someone of his quality, he's always going to score goals. I really do. I look at Cavani, who's getting onto that slender age, and you just feel that if you've got quality and you've got quality in and around, listen, I'd have him for another season or two, me personally, unless you're going to go out and bring someone like Haaland or Kane into the team, which, there's a lot of speculation surrounding that situation, but I'd certainly be keeping Aguero.
Yeah, we'll come on to Kane in just a second, but I mean, it does look like someone big's going to come in, doesn't it? 257 goals, 60 assists in just 384 games. Since he joined City in 2011, those 257 goals are 40 more than any other Premier League player scored in all competitions. He's the Premier League's non-Englishman all-time leading goal scorer. He's got the most hat-tricks in Premier League history. He's got the best minutes per goal ratio in Premier League history. And he's the fourth highest in the Premier League for goals, but his 181 goals are only 2 off equaling the record for the goals scored at one club, which is held by Wayne Rooney. I mean, look, I could go on about 10 more stats. Where does he rank for you in terms of best ever players for City? And where does he rank in terms of best ever players in the Premier League era?
I can't remember that sort of City team that they loved. Was it around that 70s time, and some heroes and some cult heroes from then. He would be the best player that I can remember playing for Manchester City. I know they
best.
Yeah.
Silva, De Bruyne, Company.
I think the longevity of what he's done, and also that goal he scored against QPR that won them the league. City were a team that up until that point was seen as, even though they had the money, as couldn't quite get over the line in sort of really big competitions, and that just sort of, and Ferguson's mentioned, isn't it, before, about the first one being the hardest and all of this kind of stuff, and I think Liverpool, maybe similar things were said about them, to win that title, I think has then opened the pathways to what we've seen now. So I would put him down as their greatest. Vincent Kompany, probably the greatest leader that they had. I mean, just in terms of player, I'd go for Aguero. All-time Premier League, I probably prefer, even as a Spurs fan, I probably, just looking at neutrally, preferred watching Thierry Henry, probably a little bit more. But he wouldn't be far behind that, and then Cantona was a different type of player, but there wouldn't be too many ahead of him.
No. Has he given the Premier League its best ever moment?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you just like you're touching on there, the goals he scored, and just, I mean, what a fabulous player. Them records speak for themselves, don't they? I think we have seen one of the best players. I mean, I definitely have him in my top three for sure. But he's just been
for Premier League.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. For the goals he scored, I think you touch on the likes of Company, who's been a fabulous leader at the club, but I think sometimes the goals, that just stands out a million miles for fans and for viewers that watch, and particular goals he scored. I mean, he scored some absolute unbelievable goals, and his build-up play has just been immense. So he's hard to touch away from. Again, I played against Thierry Henry, and he was absolutely top draw for me. So them two for me are super.
Thierry Henry, my number one. I think Aguero's overrated. No, not really. He will be sorely missed. I'd love to have seen him in another year or two in the Premier League, which may well happen. We'll have to wait and see. Could another Premier League legend replace him at City, Mark? I mean, Harry Kane. What's going on with his future? He's not committing to Spurs, is he?
He's not publicly committing to Spurs. He has, in terms of the length of contract he signed. He would be interested in going to Manchester City, I would have thought, because what an opportunity to play for Guardiola, to win the biggest trophies and compete for them on a regular basis. I don't think any Spurs fan would begrudge Kane that move. He's given Tottenham. Well, they shouldn't, because he's given Tottenham enough of his time and patience, and sort of he could do no more. It's been those around him that have maybe just fallen a little bit short. If I'm Manchester City, though, I'd probably go for Haaland. You're getting somebody that's just a lot younger, and City's, I suppose, in sort of what they've tried to do. If you're getting in Kane, he's sort of 28 now. I mean, I would have thought they'd be looking for somebody for the future. If you're going to pay 100 million plus for a player, I think I'd want somebody a bit younger. Yeah,
it could even be more than that with Daniel Levy as well. I mean, this summer, is it now or never for Harry Kane, do you feel?
I think so, yeah. I just think that, this season, again, it's been here or there. It's been sort of hit and miss again, hasn't it? And this is the thing that, you're playing at someone of his calibre. He's world class. He's one of the top strikers in the world, and not to be winning trophies, Champions League, you just feel that. I think he's got to make that big decision. And to be honest with you, are they going to turn a Spurs squad into a title-winning side? I don't think that's going to take an overnight thing. I think that could be another 2-3 years before they actually even contest with it with a top two, if you like. But I just feel that he's got to go this at the end of the season. I really do.
So if you were City, would you go for Haaland or Kane?
I would go Haaland. I've said this all along. I feel that you touched on the age. Listen, I think in comparison, there's not a lot. They're both very, very good players, but I still feel Haaland's got a lot to offer. And watching him this season, he's just a pure goal threat. I really think anything that comes in the box, when you've got the likes of Sterling and Foden, I think he'll just be a perfect fit for Manchester City. I really do.
I'd be absolutely scary. I mean, look, Harry Kane, for me, one of the best strikers and number 9s out there. Pretty decent number 10 as well, to be fair. Will give you 5 years of absolute class, but Haaland will give you 10 plus. So yeah, I'm with you both on that one. Okay, let's move it on now, shall we, and go to our Q&A section, where we give a viewer a chance to win a different league hoodie for their question to be read out. And did you know about this, and did you send one in? Because I know that you like a hoodie now and again.
Yeah, I love a hoodie, mate. It's been locked down. That's all I've worn.
Well, look, I haven't got your name down here anyway. So first up, it is Leicester Cullen. Who was the most precocious talent you saw when playing that never reached their full potential for whatever reason?
Well, it's a good question, that is. Back when I was playing, I mean, I'd have to look at one of the England under-21s players that I was obviously involved with, and I mean, Seth Johnson was one of my good pals at Leeds, and I mean, I look at him in comparison now, and he had real bad injuries. He had that big move to Leeds. I mean, he was one of them players that was just tenacious. He was fit. He had almost everything really until he had them bad knee injuries, which really set him back. So Seth Johnson was one of them that probably people didn't talk about much, but I think in this current day, you know, his energy and what he brought to that under 21 setup, he was one of them sort of standout players. But there was the likes of Lampard and Gerrard in there, so Seth was always one that stood out for me.
Anyone else you feel from the outside looking in, you seen as a talent? And if it's a no, we'll move on to the next question. So I'll tell you that one. It's from John Travail. Would you consider becoming a referee?
No.
That's what I thought you'd say. You can answer that a little bit further. I'll add to it. What about as a manager?
Would I like to be a manager?
Yeah. Would you? Did you ever think of becoming a manager?
Yeah, I did some academy stuff where I was doing my coaching just to see where I'd be at, and obviously I managed the side, and it was like I kind of felt that yes, I would like to be into a manager's role, but I think the more I sampled it and felt it, I thought no. I felt that there's too much pressure. I just feel that there was too much pressure. I mean, even as a sort of doing the scholars for my academy, it was just, I felt that there was a big hindrance on top of me, that everyone that sort of came up against me was, you know, it was always a cup final, which I don't know, I like the pressure, but I'd rather be talking about it than sitting in a dugout, if I'm honest.
It's 24/7 as a coach.
Well, and it is, yeah.
Whereas you can switch off in the media. Any extension on that note to a referee, or is it just we're keeping it as a...
No, we'll keep it as categorically enough.
Anyway, Leicester and Jordan, some hoodies will be sent to you sometime soon. Let's move on to the game preview, shall we? And game preview 1, Saturday lunchtime, Chelsea against West Brom. And Hendrie, look, Thomas Tuchel has done fantastic since he's come in. There's one particular stat that stands out for me, certainly at home anyway. 7 games, yet to concede. What has he done to make them so difficult to score against?
Well, when he first came in, I think what he brought, I suppose what he brought different to Frank was, I don't think there was an awful lot of difference. I don't know if it was just he brought that reaction, that new manager into a football club. And I think when I first watched the game when he came in, there was lots of possession base. He made them a little bit more stable. And I think he's just brought his own style and philosophy into it, hasn't he? He's made them a little bit harder to beat defensively, knowing that he's got the aspect of them key players that he's got in front. And I mean, to be fair, I think that they're more organised than what they were under Frank. But I was a bit disappointed in Frank leaving, if I'm quite honest. I felt that he could have done with another season. I didn't think Chelsea were going to go and win the league this season. So I just felt that, you know, I'm a Lamparder, to be honest, just because I know Frank, and I just felt that he deserved another season, particularly with all them players that he brought in. You're expecting it to gel straight away, but I just felt that Thomas has come in and he's just found that fine blend.
He has, yeah, and I'm not going to talk about Frank Lampard anymore because I've been saying that same thing almost weekly. But it's a Saturday lunchtime game. It's off the back of 3 international matches. Might we raise an eyebrow in terms of the team he picked, especially with the Porto game and the Champions League quarter-final coming up?
I think we've spoken about this before. It's the most vulnerable you can be, I think, as a big team playing that early Saturday game after the international period. It's the one that nobody would have wanted in their schedule. But then I look at that Chelsea squad, and we saw it in the Champions League, even when they were rotating everybody once they qualified. It's impossible to pick a bad team. He's got 3 left backs: Chilwell, Alonso, or Emerson can play at left back. You know, the options on the right are plentiful, depending on whether he wants a more defensive player or an attacking one. You know, Giroud doesn't play as much for France anymore, so if he wants to go for Giroud, I watched Germany on Sunday night. Timo Werner didn't start, so it's not like even some of those players have been pushed to the limits. So I would have thought that Chelsea are probably one of the best teams sort of equipped to cope with what is still the graveyard shift, really, for the big teams.
I'd agree with you on that. It's probably only City that have a better squad. West Brom, 10 points off safety, 9 games left. The goal difference is shocking. Big Sam has never been relegated. And in the past, he's kind of, when he has made them survive, gone to places that you thought there's no way they're going to get anything out of it, and they have. How on earth does he plan to get something out of a Tuchel Chelsea that just don't concede? If they were to somehow get a win, what could that do for them? could they then go on a particular run? You're looking at me like no chance.
No chance.
I agree.
No, I mean, I watched them I've watched them a few times, obviously this back end of the season, and I just don't see a way out of it. I really don't. You can't just turn a corner and be good defensively, good going forward. That's why they are in that league position at the moment in time. I think the only thing that they'll possibly do this weekend is that they'll sit in defensive, but they've got to win games, so they've got to try and open up at some stage. So I think Sam will go there with that style that he will set up quite deep and invite Chelsea on it and try and counter-attack. I think that's the only way that he's going to get something, but I don't see him getting anything. I don't actually see him coming away with a goal. That's how bad it is for West Bromwich Albion, unfortunately. I think he'd need to pull out the Houdini act if he was going to get them at that relegation zone.
He certainly will. Okay, Betfred selection for this game, though. You've alluded to it, but what is your selection?
For the goals and
for Chelsea,
I think it'll be Chelsea win, and I can't see West Bromwich Albion scoring a goal.
Yeah, Chelsea to win to 0 as well. 12 clean sheets in 14 matches under Tuchel.
Yeah, I look at West Brom and I think they've only they've only scored 10 goals in 16 matches. So I don't see them scoring. Totally agree with you in that. But Tuchel's Chelsea don't score a lot of goals, and if you look at the last half a dozen matches of Big Sam's side, they've not been conceding too many. So I'm going to go for a Chelsea win and under 2.5 goals in the game. So a comfortable one. I think they'll switch off at 2-0. Okay, game preview 2. It is Leicester against Manchester City. And Leicester looking to complete the double, of course. It seems a long time ago now, that fantastic win up at the Etihad. We touched on about this being the perfect time to play. Could it be for City as well, with them having a Champions League game coming up? What's that second string is good enough to finish second in the league?
Again, I think we've touched on squads, haven't we? And Chelsea and Man City being possibly the best two squads in the division. So I don't think there's any good time. I think Man City will still be strong. I think they've just got too much for Leicester. Leicester have been great. Iheanacho's come in and done a fabulous job. I've been pleased for him, to be honest, because a lot surrounds Vardy and Leicester of what he brings to that football club. And I've been actually really pleased that he's come in and he started scoring goals, given that bit of confidence. But Man City, I think, they've got too much for him. I really do feel that they'll go and dominate the game.
Just on Iheanacho, it's 5 goals in the last 2 games. He wouldn't have wanted the break to have come, would he?
No, he definitely wouldn't. Against his former club now, yes. So he'll definitely be up for the game. A lot of people liked him at Manchester City and have been waiting for this Iheanacho to show up, really, and sort of make that spot his own within the team. I think it's difficult when so much of the play was around Vardy and those runs in behind, and now they're maybe planning for what life would be like, if not sort of without Vardy, but certainly where he's not as influential. And Iheanacho has definitely stepped up and looks a threat whenever he plays now. Pep,
of course, wants to win every single game, but this is a game he can afford to lose, can't he? And again, they've got the Dortmund game coming up.
I would expect him to have one eye on that Dortmund game. He can afford to lose it, but I think whatever we've seen from Pep Guardiola over the years, he doesn't like to lose any game. He takes Community Shield seriously, and look at their record in the League Cup, for instance. He wants to win every single game, and he would feel that going into that Dortmund game on the back of a defeat would be the worst possible way. So I don't expect it to be too weak a team. He'll respect what Leicester can do.
Okay, Betfred selection for this one, Hendrie.
I'm going to go both teams to score, Man City win.
Okay.
I'm going to go for a surprise. I'm going to go for Leicester or draw double chance. So Man City not to win the game. If you look at City's record, they've only won 4 of their 10 matches against the top 7 in the Premier League this season, and once away to the top 6. So if they are vulnerable, it's in this type of game.
Yeah. Okay. Iheanacho, we've touched on. I think he'd be absolutely desperate to score against his former club. In good form as well. City, I think, will have one eye on the Champions League game, although their team will still be fantastic. If ever there's a good time to play City, it's now, and yet I'm still not saying a Leicester win. I'm going to go for a score draw here. Okay, let's move it on. Good game, this one, actually. It's a Saturday evening game, Arsenal against Liverpool. And Hendo, how big was that win for Liverpool before the break at Wolves? It was 6 defeats in 7 before then. And how big is this game for Klopp's men as well? At the moment, they're 5 points off 4th.
Yeah, I think it's massive now. I think this is the stage where, it's the business end, isn't it? I think particularly for Liverpool, I just feel that if they can get that bit of momentum, obviously I just feel that now that they need to finish the season really strong. They need to go and get a result. It has to be a tough game, but coming off the back of a win, I just feel that they will gain that momentum, that confidence, and I think they've needed that this season. There's been lots of hype and had downfall. How Liverpool have absolutely just not done it this season, and looking at stats of how they've not done it, they haven't been clinical enough this season, which has been disappointing for Liverpool. And obviously there are lots of injuries that have had, new additions, but I feel that they've got to go and get a result, and I feel that they've got to finish the season quite strongly. Who knows? They could possibly go and win the Champions League, couldn't they?
They could. Tough game in the quarters, or certainly against a well-known Champions League winner. I came up on the train today, and I know the guy who sells the tickets, and he's a big Liverpool fan. And I said, "What's happened?" And he said, "Oh my goodness, we're not going to finish top 4. I don't even want Europa League place." So he's taken them out of the top 6 already. But I mean, look, win and the confidence that brings, and if other teams do somehow drop points, and top 4 is a possibility. But if they lose this, how difficult is it going to be to qualify for 4th?
If they lose, I don't think that they will. They'll see it as an opportunity because Leicester have got a really hard game against Manchester City, and Leicester's running is not the most pleasant. So I think Liverpool maybe are looking at Leicester more than they are Chelsea. I know Chelsea are closer to them, but the way they're going, so you're saying it's 5 points. It's probably more than that because they've got to probably feel like they've got to get to Leicester.
Yeah.
But so this absolutely must win, and if they don't win the game, I think they will just put everything into the Champions League. At the moment, I think you have to juggle it a little bit and still have 2 priorities. If they don't win this game, I agree with the ticket salesperson that you'll be wanting to get out of the Europa League. A team like Liverpool don't need to be in that.
No. We didn't touch on the West Ham game for Arsenal last week, did we? It didn't really have time. But it was some character they showed to come back from 3-0 down and could have won the game.
Yeah, it was brilliant in the way that they come back. You would have serious question marks about a team that has got ambitions to be sort of top 4, top 6. How do you get into that position in the first place where you're 3-0 down? Some of the defending and goalkeeping, just continues to be a joke. But I think Odegaard's made a big difference to them in the attacking third. Aubameyang didn't do much, and that would be a slight concern, I suppose. But then Lacazette steps up. But I think Odegaard has definitely enhanced their attacking potential.
Do you like what you're seeing under Arteta? Do you see a process, a philosophy that's going to come, or I'm looking at your face and thinking no?
I'm not convinced. Again, I've done the games over the season, and I'm just not convinced with the style. I don't know whether it's personnel that they've got in that squad at this current time, but how deep they play, how sort of, I've particularly watched them against Villa where they've got so many bodies behind the ball. He's got a structure that he wants to work off, and at the moment, I just don't see it. I really don't. I just don't see what angle he's coming from. They've got attacking players in abundance. Smith Rowe, I think, has been brilliant since he's come in as well. I think they've got plenty of young players in there, but I just don't feel that. I don't feel that they're going to go forward. I can't see it, and that's just my view on it. I just don't feel
under Arteta, or
no,
just...
under Arteta, I don't feel that it's going to work. And some people wish for other things, don't they? You look at managers that have been involved when Wenger was involved, and then they wanted him out. This style at the moment, I'm not too sure. I'm not convinced with Arsenal at all this season from what I've seen.
Okay, I'm interested in your Betfred selection for this game then, Arsenal Liverpool.
Well, tough game again, obviously, but I feel both teams will score, and I'm going for the draw. I just think it'll be quite a tight game, but I think it'll be. My score prediction would be 1-1, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to go for Liverpool to win. Arsenal 1 clean sheet in 15.
I'm with you. Score draw. I can't believe the odds, actually, when you look at it. And if one team's going to win, I'd probably go for Arsenal.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, who knows with the Premier League. And certainly my tips aren't always the best. But I am going for a score draw, agreeing with you, Hendo. OK, on Sunday, game preview 4. It is Newcastle against Spurs. Will the real Tottenham please stand up? Which is it? Is it the North London derby where they lost, and deservedly so, and crumbled in the Europa League, or the one that have won 4 of the last 5 Premier League games? Great club, but they are very Spursy at the moment.
Yeah, I don't really... I never got too excited when they were top of the league. It didn't feel like they were sort of the best team in the league when they were top. And I think the real Tottenham is about this sort of, fighting on the verge of top four. But you look at Chelsea and you haven't got the squad to match Chelsea. They haven't got a squad to match Manchester United. They haven't got a squad to match Man City. I think Liverpool, all things considered, them quite a bit better than them. They'll be disappointed that Leicester are so far ahead of them. But I mean, ultimately, Tottenham are paying now for not backing Pochettino when they had a position of strength, and he went, was it 2 years without making a signing? And you can't do that. You just can't do that because everybody else around you is buying, and they're now finding that out. And they've got good players, but in some positions they just lack, and particularly at centre half. I mean, I wouldn't know which the best combination of those two. It's any two from about four, and none of them convince me.
So they rely on up front. I mean, we spoke about Harry Kane earlier, didn't we? Harry Kane stat for you. He's been involved in 43 goals in 40 games this season. 27 goals, 16 assists, just 2 short of his best ever. I mean, he's as good as ever, isn't he? What are they without him?
Nothing. No, I mean, you can't say that because they've got, like you say, they've got the fabulous players in that forward area. But I think what he brings to that team is just, I mean, you take him out of there and you would consider, you'd worry about Spurs. I've got to say, I just feel that they'd be a mediocre side. I really do feel that what he brings into the side, I mean, even dropping into them areas that he has done, he can play straight through the middle and score goals. And he can drop in and create and score goals. He's one of them players that you could physically put him anywhere, couldn't you? He's
playing centre back and left back at times, doesn't he?
You could do because he's just got that. He's got a great football mind. He gets in great spaces, and his passing ability is second to none. So you just feel that without Harry Kane. I feel that, and I totally agree on it. I felt that they haven't bought and they haven't kept up with the times, and that's why I feel that it's a big, longer process for Spurs if they're going to even compete with the top two. Okay, let's touch on Newcastle then, shall we? Since back-to-back victories against Palace and West Brom, they've won just 2 of the last 18 Premier League games. That's picking up fewer points than any Premier League side in that time. I mean, shocking against Brighton. There's unrest behind the scenes. Big players out injured as well. How much do you worry for them in terms of relegation? I really do worry. I feel that you look at the closest one in, and it's Fulham who have under Scott have picked some form up, and you feel that they're the ones that are going to sort of battle it out for that third spot in the bottom 3. But I do worry for Newcastle this early on in the season. I just felt that I like Steve Bruce. I really do. I think he's a fabulous guy, and you can see what way he likes to play. He likes that defensive mind. But I think with the players that they've got in that team, they should be doing better. They really should. I'm not saying that they should be competing with Europe or in the top 5, but I certainly think they should be mid-table. And you can see why there's so much unrest with the fans, is that being that defensive pivot and not scoring enough goals, you're going to get fans off their seats, and because they had it at Aston Villa, exactly the same sort of situation. So I feel times have changed in football, and maybe it might be time for Steve to move on. But I think that would just be, time will tell, really. Yeah, the worry in this game, if they go sort of in the club's DNA and try to attack, then Spurs are probably the best. Well, the stats suggest they're the best counter-attacking side in the Premier League. Is that playing into their hands then? Yeah, but I mean, at the moment they just feel like they're waiting to be relegated. They're not playing on. I mean, the first half performance against Brighton was just atrocious, and some of the Brighton goals were fabulous. And Brighton haven't done that for most of the season. They've missed much easier ones, and Steve Bruce will probably think, "How's your luck?" when sort of they then finish them off. But you're asking for trouble if you play like that. Even if you've got men out, and they did with Maximan and Callum Wilson, you need to be more aggressive. I mean, Fulham have found a way of sort of being more aggressive. It doesn't always work for them, but they're trying to win matches, and and I don't feel like Newcastle are trying to win matches. They're trying to draw or hope that Fulham don't get enough points to stay up, and that's not the way you should be going. That final game of the season is looming, isn't it? That should be a classic if it's still resting on that. Betfred selection for this one then? Yeah, I think it'll be a tight game. I think Newcastle will sit in and try and defend and try and get that point that they've been chasing constantly. I feel that there'll be limited goals. I think it'll be under 2 goals, and I feel that Spurs will win. Okay. I'm going to go for Lucas to score first, just because I think he's
outside of Harry Kane, has been the real one sort of live wire. He's really good against Aston Villa. He's good against Palace. He'd be the one for me.
Okay, I mean, I don't see where the next point is coming from, to be honest with you, if it's Steve Bruce and Newcastle. I mean, Spurs are inconsistent, but they're still, and you're right, I don't think they'll finish fourth, but they're still in with a shout. I don't think they'll make a mistake here. So for me, it's Spurs to win 2-0. Okay, game preview 5. It is Manchester United against Brighton. And United's last game was the cup defeat against Leicester. How badly do they need to bounce back? You know, they're in a really good position league-wise that they shouldn't be caught up in we've got to finish top 4, we don't yet know. Could that happen, do you feel, if things go on?
Yeah, I do. I just feel that Manchester United this season, it's been one of them where I felt that they've been so close yet so far, and making so many changes at times. Not at this stage of the season. I just feel that they have to have that bounce back, don't they? Obviously they're never going to catch City, but you just feel that they do need to hold that. I feel that they have to finish in second this season. They've had a real good spell at times, and then I just feel that I feel that they're missing just 2 or 3 players to make that almost a battle between the promotion race. But I feel that they certainly need to bounce back the weekend.
Yeah, and yet when Ollie needs a result, he seems to get one, doesn't he, when he's really under pressure. If Newcastle were really poor, how good were Brighton in that game? You know, what did the result and the performance do for them? You talk about playing that type of football but not scoring those type of goals. I mean, everything clicked. Didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you spoke earlier about sort of the process at Arsenal. You can see the process at Brighton. I mean, Lee was on the commentary with the game against West Brom, where, I mean, how they lost that game, you'll never know. And when they played the reverse game against Manchester United, they absolutely battered United and lost 3-2. And I think that Potter is, outside of the obvious ones, one of the best coaches in the league, and I think with better players he could do some really good work. Maybe even at somewhere like a Tottenham, you know, give him Kane and Son, and you've got a completely sort of different outcome with some of those missed chances. But this isn't a surprise to me. I think that Brighton are way better than their league position suggests, and I've just been waiting for the wins. And maybe it was the one before that against Southampton, and that follows in. So they'll be absolutely full of confidence, and rightly so.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mark about Graham Potter. I saw you nodding there as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think he's come on loads. I just feel that his style of play, there's excitement there. I just feel that if they'd have had a centre forward this season, I think they'd have been right amongst it, because they are easy on the eye to watch. I like the way he gets his fullbacks forward, and he likes to play football through the lines. It's not just possession based. It's getting it forward in the right areas, and they have been a joy to watch. They've just been so unfortunate they just haven't had someone to stick the ball in the back of the net. This
game's at Old Trafford, but could you see possession almost, perhaps, if not 50-50, maybe even more for Brighton? How do you see the game developing, and then your section?
I feel there'll be goals in this game. I really do. I just feel that both sides will want to dominate possession. As I stated, Brighton will create chances, and I think it will open up chances for Manchester United. I feel that there'll be certainly goals, but I do fancy Manchester United to bounce back and get a result. I just feel that they've just got that little bit more, and I just feel that they'll go well, my prediction is that what you was asking for me? Or
yep.
My prediction is Manchester United to win over 3 goals in the game.
I think it'd be a really good watch. I'm going to go for another upset in this game and go for Brighton not to lose the game. I think that they've only lost 4 matches in the whole of the calendar year. I think they're definitely improving and can be awkward opponents for anyone.
Yeah, I think they can outplay almost anyone, to be honest with you. But I'm with you. I can see both teams scoring, but somehow United, again, just getting back on track and nicking this one. So United to win, but both teams to score for me. Okay, final one of the games. It's Wolves against West Ham. And Mark, how much of a blow was it for West Ham? I mean, they are chasing 4th at the moment, 3-0 up against Arsenal, and they don't see it out.
Yeah, it was. And you saw at the end, I mean, the players were gutted at the end of that game. You would be. You just dropped 2 points in a game where you were 3-0 up. Of course, they've had the opposite of that when they've come back from 3-0, and that was a miraculous result at Spurs. So they've seen both ends of that. I don't think they played well enough in the second half. Even though Antonio missed a good chance, they were quite negative. I felt David Moyes' substitutions were inviting trouble. At every turn, he tried to make the team more defensive, and it's worked for him in recent matches. But even against somebody like Tottenham, he was making them defensive substitutions and got away with it. This time he didn't. And I said before, after that game at Manchester United, West Ham need to embrace the position they're in and go for it. And it doesn't feel like they're doing that at the moment, and they're feeling the nerves really of being in that position, which is understandable. But in many respects, you're not expected to be there. So give it a go. And I just felt the substitutions helped Arsenal because they ended up with just no counter-attack threat whatsoever.
Again, you're nodding now. I mean, are these the games that West Ham do need to win if they are to finish in the top four? How realistic is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're 3-0 up, and then you do turn into a negative side where you're sitting back and inviting pressure on. I'm totally with you. I just feel that they need to keep doing what they're doing that's got them to that situation. Yes, they're in a league position where you think no one would have thought West Ham would have been in that situation. So I want to embrace that rather than sitting back and having that. It's almost like that the nerves have just sort of hitting of where they actually are, and that's where I feel that this might be a little bit of a dip in form that might just catch them out, for me, the business side of the season.
I mean, for Wolves, great news that Rui Patricio seems to be okay. You know, he might not play for this one. We're not quite sure, but they are closer to the relegation places than a Europa League place. What's the plan now until the end of the season? What's the motivation here? I mean, everyone says, look, you know, you should be up for every game, and you should. Yeah. But you still want to be thinking that there's something at the end of this, don't you? Yeah, there isn't for them.
Well, I feel they've just got to finish as high up as possible, finish the season on a big high. I think they've disappointed me a bit this season, Wolves, if I'm honest. I think, you know, you look at him as obviously not being available due to his injury, and I feel that he's been a big miss for him. I just feel that, you know, they haven't fulfilled what they have last season. Whether teams have sussed them out, we talk about sort of Sheffield United, the way the style that they play, and they play similar sort of style to that. And I've been disappointed with them this season, whether or it's not that they haven't had someone who's been that central pivot and that go-to man. I think that's been that only disappointment. But I do feel that they need to finish the season strongly. I think that's their only achievement that they can do.
Okay, Betfred selection for this one then.
I think this will be a tight game, and again, I reflect on what West Ham. I just feel that Wolves, I just think they'll just edge this one. I think it'll be a tight game. I think I'm going 1-0 Wolves.
Are you?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't think West Ham should be favourites to win this game. I'm going to go for Wolves.
I'm going against you. You won't be surprised. I think with injuries, we'll see whether Patricio's back, but Jimenez has been a big blow. You know, change of system has been difficult for them. It hasn't been a great season. I'm going for an away win here for West Ham. Come on, you Hammers. Let's move on swiftly, I think, to the best fantasy football picks this weekend. So each of us pick a player that we think will stand out. Who have you gone for, Hendo?
I've gone for Werner. I just feel that coming back, I think he'd be nice and fresh. Coming up against Albion, I feel that he could be the man.
You're enjoying saying that up against Albion.
I am actually. Yeah. Can you tell?
Well, there's a bit of great minds because I'm also targeting West Brom as well. But just in the defensive area, I think and again another German, but Rudiger, to set pieces, he's a bit of a threat and probably should get a few more goals. But the way Mount puts the balls in, they've scored a lot of goals this season from set pieces, and the clean sheet never guaranteed. But you feel like it's probably as likely as you're going to get this season, really, for a clean sheet.
OK, I'm going for Patrick Bamford. I think he's got a point to prove of not being in the England squad. I think he would have been rested up, although do you ever rest in a Bielsa side, even in an international break? Just down to the triple sessions instead of quadruple. I just think he'll be chomping at the bit. And although Sheffield United did really well in the second half at Stamford Bridge in the Cup, I still think it's back to the grind of the Premier League and he can take advantage there. So Patrick Bamford for me. Final one, team treble. Each of us pick a team that we think will win 6-1 our team treble this week. Who have you gone for?
I think I went for Chelsea, did I? I was just thinking then, because you just threw me. Yeah, Chelsea to win.
OK, Chelsea to beat West Brom, yeah.
I'm sticking in the Premier League. I'm going for Southampton to beat Burnley. Southampton had a really dodgy spell, but that coincided with just about everybody important being injured for them. I think it's only Romeu that's out now. Danny Ings and Theo Walcott have returned to training. Walker Peters has been back. So that Southampton team looks a lot better now. Probably need one more win just to be safe, and this looks like a good opportunity to me.
Okay, you're not going to like what I'm going to say, because both of you are going against it. I'm going for West Ham to win at Wolves. I genuinely think they can get back on track, and I think Wolves at the moment are there for the taking, but 6-1 team trouble. That's it. You've got a busy Easter coming up, haven't you? You've got plenty of games.
Yeah, all over the weekend. Yeah, got some really classics. Obviously, one of your old clubs, Charlton. And then I'm at Huddersfield, and then I'm at Huddersfield, which will be a decent game the weekend. So Brentford, they've got to bounce back. Got a big one to chase them top two.
Hendo, great to see you as always. You're looking a million, as always, I have to say. Fantastic. Good to see you, mate. And Mark, as ever, thank you. Okay, that's it. We'll be back next week. We'll see how Hendo's predictions come about. We'll look ahead to next weekend's games as well. As ever, please, if you are to gamble, please gamble responsibly. And can I just finish on saying I can't believe it's 20 years ago to the day since we lost David Rocastle, an absolute legend as a player, and also even more so as a person as well, as a former teammate of mine. And Rocky, we're thinking of you.